When I got home from school, Father was still at work, so I went into the kitchen and I took the key out of the little china jug shaped like a nun and opened the back door and went outside and looked inside the dustbin to find my book. I wanted to get my book back because I liked writing it. I liked having a project to do, and I liked it especially if it was a difficult project like a book. Also, I still didn't know who had killed Wellington, and my book was where I had kept all the clues that I had discovered, and I did not want them to be thrown away. But my book wasn't in the dustbin. I put the lid back on the dustbin and walked down the garden to have a look in the bin where Father keeps the garden waste, such as lawn clippings and apples that have fallen off the trees, but my book wasn't in there either. I wondered if Father had put it into his van and driven to the tip and put it into one of the big bins there, but I didn't want that to be true, because then I would never see it again. One other possibility was that Father had hidden my book somewhere in the house, so I decided to do some detecting and see if I could find it, except that I had to keep listening really hard all the time so I would hear his van when he pulled up outside the house so he wouldn't catch me being a detective. I started by looking in the kitchen. My book was approximately 25 centimetres by 35 centimetres by 1 centimetre, so it couldn't be hidden in a very small place, which meant that I didn't have to look in any really small places. I looked on top of the cupboards and down the back of the drawers and under the oven, and I used my special Maglite torch and a piece of mirror from the utility room to help me see into the dark spaces at the back of the cupboards where the mice used to get in from the garden and have their babies. Then I detected in the utility room. Then I detected in the dining room. Then I detected in the living room, where I found the missing wheel from my Airfix Messerschmitt BF 109 G6 model under the sofa. Then I thought I heard Father coming through the front door, and I jumped, and I tried to stand up fast, and I banged my knee on the corner of the coffee table, and it hurt a lot, but it was only one of the drug people next door dropping something on the floor. Then I went upstairs, but I didn't do any detecting in my own room, because I reasoned that Father wouldn't hide something from me in my own room unless he was being very clever and doing what's called a double bluff, like in a real murder mystery novel. So I decided to look in my own room only if I couldn't find the book anywhere else. I detected in the bathroom, but the only place to look was in the airing cupboard, and there was nothing in there. Which meant that the only room left to detect in was Father's bedroom. I didn't know whether I should look in there, because he had told me not to mess with anything in his room, but if he was going to hide something from me, the best place to hide it would be in his room. So I told myself I would not mess with things in his room. I would move them, and then I would move them back, and he would never know I'd done it, so he wouldn't be angry. I started by looking under the bed. There were 7 shoes, and a comb with lots of hair in it, and a piece of copper pipe, and a chocolate biscuit, and a porn magazine called Fiesta, and a dead bee, and a Homer Simpson pattern tie, and a wooden spoon, but not my book. Then I looked in the drawers on either side of the dressing table, but these only contained aspirin and nail clippers and batteries and dental floss and a tampon and tissues and a spare false tooth in case Father lost the false tooth he had to fill the gap where he knocked a tooth out when he fell off the ladder putting a bird box up in the garden, but my book wasn't in there either. Then I looked in his clothes cupboard. This was full of clothes on hangers. There was also a little shelf at the top that I could see onto if I stood on the bed, but I had to take my shoes off in case I left a dirty footprint that would be a clue if Father decided to do some detecting. But the only things on the shelf were more porn magazines and a broken sandwich toaster and 12-wire coat hangers and an old hairdryer that used to belong to Mother. In the bottom of the cupboard was a large plastic toolbox, which was full of tools for doing do-it-yourself, like a drill and a paintbrush and some screws and a hammer. But I could see these without opening the box, because it was made of transparent grey plastic. Then I saw that there was another box underneath the toolbox, so I lifted the toolbox out of the cupboard. The other box was an old cardboard box that's called a shirt box because people used to buy shirts in them. And when I opened the shirt box, I saw my book was inside. Then I didn't know what to do. I was happy because Father hadn't thrown my book away, but if I took the book, he would know I had been messing with things in his room, and he'd be very angry, and I had promised not to mess with things in his room. That was when I saw the envelope.